welcome. Thank you again for having me. I'd like to start out just telling you a little bit about Spectraspray and then a little bit about me, because I know it's always interesting to hear the story and to connect the dots, because a lot of us don't know where we're going to be in 10 or 20 years, or we look back and we're not sure how we got where we are, but the people we've met and the experience that we've gotten in life somehow just kind of dictates our path. So Spectraspray, like Tricia had said, is an oral spray vitamin company. I started it actually around 2013 with a partner. And by 2016, 2017, it wasn't working out. So we thought we were just going to take some products, put them online, and they were just going to sell all over the place. And then we realized you do have to do marketing. You have to understand the retail market and a lot of other complicated things. So I took it over, bought out my partner in 2016. So I really use that as my start date. And as we go through, I'll tell you a little bit more about our branding and how everything really evolved. So like Tricia had said, I'm located in New Jersey. I just have a home office. I have a few assistants that help me with various things like social media and accounting and all that. And our products are sold online, but of course now they're international. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep seeing the people being admitted, but you're going to admit them, right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, great. So we have international distribution. We also have nutrition professionals. One of our nutritional professionals, Donna Galarza, is on with us, who has been a huge inspiration for me completely understanding a lot of the nutrition knowledge that I have. I don't have a nutrition degree, but I have an amazing wealth of knowledge in nutrition, even in genetics. I had sold genetic testing for a while, so I understand a lot about how the body works and how individual we all are. Not going into a lot of that today, but I will mention it. And of course, we're funded in part by the Small Business Administration and supported by the U.S. Commercial Services STEP grant, which I never knew existed until I met Tricia. And that's for export. So a little bit about how Spectraspray evolved. Like I said, connecting the dots. As Steve Jobs said, you really can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them looking back. We don't really know how they're going to connect. So my efforts to help others live better and longer naturally, of course, started with my own family and myself. As my mother unfortunately had early onset Alzheimer's at age 59, maybe even before, we cared for her as a family, and we tried to do everything we could. I took her for a study in Colombia. This was a long time ago. I mean, this was 30 years ago. And now Alzheimer's is so prevalent, even early onset. But back then, it was a complete mystery. And it really, really catapulted my journey into, we didn't want it to happen to me and my sister. So I did as much research as I could. I learned a lot about detoxification, proper nutrients, exercise, everything, all the different spokes in the wheel that help with positive aging, including stress reduction, sleeping well, and all of that. So years later, when I was 41, I was lucky enough to have twins, and my children were fine. They were very healthy. They were preemies, but my son did in, I guess, kindergarten, first grade, was diagnosed with ADHD, auditory processing. And through the years, through schooling and all of that, had a lot of anxiety, still does, but knows how to manage it. And that was a complete inspiration as a mother. It's one thing when it's your parent, you do everything you can. When it's your child, you lay down your life for them. So I did a lot, went to all those IEP meetings. I had boxes and boxes of IEP meetings with the teachers, but I worked with certain supplements that did help relieve his anxiety, helped him to sleep, helped him to focus, and we were always tweaking it, but it was a big inspiration for me to learn. So that's exactly what I did. Happy to announce he just graduated from NJIT with a cybersecurity degree, and he's a very bright and responsible young man. So all those dots really connected if I do nothing more. So the importance of nutrition and natural products was a big part of my journey, understanding who needs what and trying to customize for people what they need. Like I said, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a physician, I'm not a chemist, but I understand enough to know that I can consult with people who do know. And that's what I did through the years. And in my journey, I met a naturopathic doctor who explained that spray vitamins have about 5 times the absorption of pills and capsules. Because quite often, people take vitamins, they think it's an insurance policy, and they may not even be absorbing it. There's ways to learn if you are not going there. But with the spray vitamins, we're quite sure you're going to get your vitamin D. We have studies. You're going to get your CoQ10. You're going to get your B12. All of the really important anti-aging vitamins, nutrients. And you're also going to sleep better if you have a sleep solution and a stress solution. So they're high absorption and they're easy to use. Take them with you. So a lot of people forget to take vitamins. So there's really no reason if you take them with you. We actually have a mother-daughter team. I'm proud to say that I brought my daughter in a couple of years ago. She has done all the marketing materials as far as design. She's an interior designer, but her graphic design capabilities are amazing. She's actually a content creator for smaller health-oriented natural product companies on social media. Virginia Tech graduate with interior design, and she just yells at me if I try to add something to the website. No, you have a brand. The most important thing about Kelsey is that in 2018, when I met Trisha, I was just about ready to give up the business. And she said to me, Mom, you need a brand. You can't just put these sprays out there. The label's ugly. You need a brand. I'm going to create it for you and you're going to be successful. Well, she's now the vice president because she was right. I got the marketing materials, these beautiful posters and banners from Vistaprint, and I went out there into trade shows internationally and something worked. So I really think it had a lot to do with Kelsey. So you know who's getting the company when I go. These are a few of our single products. We recently were able to afford to put packaging on them. We have 14 altogether. They're very small and very easy to use. And they're TSA compliant. These are a couple of our kits. We like to say that they're travel kits, but they're also really just wellness kits for anyone. Jet lag is very, very important for people traveling, but we have the sleep spray and the energy spray there. So it's good for everyone anytime. Little kit that we created off the recommendation of a consultant who said if you're going to be selling to travel establishments, they're going to want some type of a travel kit that you can take on the plane. And then one of the events we went to, we were fortunate enough to meet a press company that was willing to work with us at a very nominal fee per month to try to get press. And we had articles in the Hollywood Life, the Trendsetter featured our Cafe Energy. And the final and most important one was that we were featured in Forbes. And this means a lot, especially for a small business, small women-owned business that didn't pay, $20,000, $30,000 to get press. Okay, so let's start with the meat of the presentation. Trish and I had talked about what bullet points I should really share. And one of the most important ones we felt was having a women-owned small business and the challenges that we face. I would say the first and most important challenge is raising capital. As a small business, you'll have so many companies and banks come to you and say, we could do this, we could do that. But most of them are loans, very few are grants. And at this point, besides the STEP grant for export, which has completely supported our business, we are applying for women grants. So even though women-owned is challenging, there's also a benefit for being a woman because it is considered a minority. So there's a lot of grants out there that you can apply for. Fortunately and unfortunately, I was just a little too busy to apply for these things. I was working, running the whole business. gaining success, filling orders, ordering product, everything that comes with owning a company. Another bullet point about being women-owned is in some countries, as I'm sure Sally and Trisha and Susan can attest to, is that there's a lot of male-dominated owners in many, I'd say certain types of companies. I'm finding in the health and fitness industry a little bit less, but that's something to think about and how women are perceived in those countries. You're getting on a call, and on my next slide, I'll talk a little bit about communication, but you have to understand how they perceive you. The other thing about being a woman, as most of the women on the phone know, on the call, is our family obligations, which men have too, and men contribute a lot more now than they used to, or I should say partners do contribute. But, you know, being a mom and worrying about getting the food on the table and taking care of the kids' activities is quite often, even if you're not doing it, you're getting people to do it for you. So I'm a little bit older now. It's a lot easier. I have a lot more time. Maybe not as much energy, but I spray my energy spray and then I have a little bit more energy. But family obligations are definitely, I think, a little bit more challenging for women than men, because quite often the women take care of a lot of that for the partner and the man can go build his business. So I've kind of had to take that into my own hands and say, I'm building a business, talk to you later. The public perception of being a business owner, it took a while for me to be able to say, I own a business. And my supportive husband kept saying, when people ask you what you do, just say, I own a business. Repeat it to yourself. I own a business. I own a business. Now it's easy to say because it's more successful. But in the beginning, it was very difficult. Bootstrapping, taking loans, using a credit card for a $1,500 trade event. You didn't really feel like you owned a business. You felt like you were just building something. So yes, this is how I got started. Trisha already mentioned it was actually 2018, and I found your logo on, online. So it was the Women Entrepreneurship Week at Montclair State University. Every year they do this, and it's just a great event highlighting other women and businesses they've built. Many, many more successful than I am, and very inspirational. So here's Trisha's contact information. If any of you have small businesses that you want to export, I'm sure she'll point you in the right direction. What's so exciting about the organization, the Department of Commerce, is that they have people in each vertical. So Trish is actually, I think she works with food and supplements. So she understands the things that I have to understand to move forward and export. So a couple words about communication. If you don't know the culture of certain countries, if you don't know the people that you're talking to, you really do have to figure out how you're going to meet them. I didn't know if I should be on the phone, if I should do a Zoom, if it's too intrusive to ask to meet them by Zoom. And little by little, I realized that they do welcome that and they do appreciate seeing each other face to face. You lose so much communication when you don't have body language. And quite often, if there's some type of an accent or a little bit tricky, understanding the person on the other line, it helps to be able to see them and to be able to communicate. And me being Italian, of course, I like to use my hands. I'd like to recommend, too, that if you think there might be a language barrier, and sometimes you can tell from how someone formulates an email, that you hire someone who understands the language, even if it's just an accent, even if they're not, of course, if they're communicating in another language, you can't really have the call yourself. But it might be a great idea to have someone on who's a little bit more adept at that country's communication methods. So I already mentioned learning the customs of the country. There's actually companies, I don't recall which ones, but I know you can reach out to the Small Business Administration or the District Export Council to find out how to learn about the customs of the country that you're working with, what's proper, how to shake hands, what to wear. being respectful of their customs in their country. So being a solopreneur, a solo entrepreneur, I was very, very blessed. A few of the people that I had help support me are on this call today, and I thank them. Daria and Rich and Donna, I really appreciate all the help that you've given me, both being on our advisory board and being able to get on some calls with me so that I didn't look like I was a solopreneur. I'm not saying that people in other countries judge that, but if they're going to be getting on a call with 4 or 5 people from their team and they let you know, and it's just you, it looks a lot better to have a couple of other professionals with you. And also, when you get off the call, to be able to discuss it with them. So that was really helpful for my business. Probably the biggest challenge we've had is regulations. We have to register supplements for every country's health authority, and they're different in every single country. I'm going to tell you a kind of funny story. It's not so funny now. It was not funny then, but it's a little funny now. We shipped samples to Singapore when we had our first event in Singapore with someone representing us. We didn't have to go. We had a nice poster pod and we had someone go. I shipped everything off. I was a nervous wreck. I didn't understand anything about shipping. I go to Florida to get on a little vacation. I'm at a fundraiser and I get an email. I get something on my phone saying, your samples can't get to Singapore, DHL or whatever. There's something wrong. And it didn't even say what was wrong. And I was on a time constraint, a very serious time constraint. So after many calls and a weekend of frustration, pretty much ruined my vacation, realized they needed a hazmat clearance because their spray vitamins, they thought they would be aerosol. So I had to reach out to the manufacturer, get that hazmat clearance, send that off to the shipping, and then they did go to Singapore. Meanwhile, takes a few days to get to Singapore. So the gentleman I was working with, who was connected through these organizations, so kindly said, I'll have them delivered to my office and I'll hand deliver them to the people that are considering representing you. So it worked out in the long run, but shipping can really, really be an issue. So who registers your products? It's something that you're going to need to find out. You can't just send things around the world. I knew that, but I kind of didn't know it was as difficult as it is. So there are ways to learn. Are you going to be working with a distributor? Are they going to pay the VAT taxes? Are you going to pay the registration costs for registering your products? These are all things I've had to learn about. And, thank God for the support that I've gotten, but there's a lot to learn. So all that nutrition knowledge was wonderful, but as soon as you get into a business, the knowledge that you're getting, I like to say, you don't know what you don't know, but you better find out. That knowledge is really important. Incoterms. I never heard the word Incoterms. And then I get on a webinar from the Small Business Administration. There's 11 or 12 different ways to ship. Who pays the taxes when it gets there? Who gets it to the port? Who gets it to the location? Who's responsible? Who has the liability? Who has the insurance? Really, really important to know all of that, because you could lose your whole business if you have to pay certain fees. And then as far as supplements go, you register them in other countries, but you can't register them in countries that consider them drugs. They would have to be FDA certified. And as most of us know in the US, supplements are not FDA certified. They're only regulated as far as their manufacturing process. So the first 2 countries that I wanted to work with, I thought it would be cool to have some Caribbean countries, Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, I wanted to go there. They register supplements as drugs. So check that off the list. Lots of research to do. So switching over to how to achieve international success. I feel that I've had some success, but I'm really just beginning my journey with the international export. I think marketing and learning what the distributor or even just the store or whoever you're going to be working with wants to do with your product is probably the most important thing. We have a preconceived notion of our products because it's hard to get out of our own circle and be objective. But being able to share how you've been successful, how you've sold, but then listening to their ideas, their marketing ideas, having them submit a marketing plan. I did work with a few consultants to help me understand what I should ask for, what I should look for, and whether I should honor an exclusivity request that they might ask for as well. The other thing is, being that we were a small company, I was more than willing to share my graphic assets. And one of my consultants had said, "Why are you sharing that for free? You need to charge for that. It costs you time, it costs you money. Just because your daughter is your daughter and she created it, hundreds of hours went into all of that." So it's really your choice if you want to include some of your graphic assets upon purchase, or if you kind of bake it into your pricing. But in general, I had to start with a smaller company. I had about a dozen calls with Singapore after the initial show, and some of them were really huge companies. And the consultant that I hired said, "Janet, you are not ready for some of these huge companies. You're going to sign a contract. You're going to have to make sure, that your supply chain is always there." Who knew COVID was coming? But you're not ready. Tell them that, you're a small company and you can talk to them in a year. And, luckily I had her by my side. Sheila Donovan was amazing, or I wouldn't have known any of this. And I partnered with a smaller company that I was able to support quite well. And then finding out every couple of months how they're doing with sales. Just keeping an eye on the time. Okay. So establishing distribution relationships and attending events, I think, are really, really important, kind of knowledge-based, important things to know about. I feel that the first steps are really through trade.gov. They have services like an initial market check to find out if it's really a good market for you in a certain country. And then they have international partner searches, which I have one going on right now for Saudi Arabia. And they'll take a few weeks. And for under $1,000, which is nothing, they will look for people who would like to partner with you. And you tell them what you want. Are you looking for distributors? Are you looking for retailers? And they'll get back to you with a few matches that you can then have conversations with. So that's a great way to start. Or, of course, if you know someone in other countries that are able to point you in the right direction, they might say to you, "Wow, we really have a need for these health products," or "We really have a need for this cyber service. Talk to this person." And then, of course, back it up with being able to view the company and vet it and doing your homework to understand more about that company, their profitability, and anything a consultant would tell you to do for understanding whether you want to work with a company. Then the next step, I always feel, is meet and greet. I like meeting and seeing someone's face, like I had said before. So that establishes a relationship a lot better. We had quite a few calls with a very large South Korean company, and there were usually 3 or 4 gentlemen on the call. Like I'd said, no women, 3 or 4 gentlemen. And it was very, very helpful to see each other face to face. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't work out only because they were so restricted in what ingredients they could bring in. They couldn't even bring in the better form of B12 called methylcobalamin. It wasn't allowed in their country. They couldn't bring in melatonin, which we buy over the counter here. So it kind of eliminated all but maybe 1 or 2 of my sprays, and we didn't think that would work for a business plan. So finding events in your niche, it's really fun. I love trade shows. I've had people come with me to the trade shows. We did the New York Times travel show originally before COVID, and then we just did it this year. And it's great to find your niche. What are you looking for? But it's not so easy if you haven't figured out what your niche is. I decided on travel because I went to a women's conference in Philadelphia, and a marketing person came up to me and said, love your vitamins, love your future of vitamin signs, but you should be focusing on something that focuses on the convenience, a market that you don't have to compete with the multi-million-dollar vitamin company. And I chose travel. Great. It worked for a couple of months, and then the pandemic started. So put that on the back burner, created some more wellness kits, and we are coming back into travel now, but need to find your own niche. So here's a couple of pictures of the events that we attended. I wanted to put a little bit personal touch into this. I was very grateful for the trade.gov STEP grant. It originally allowed me to have this poster set up at the LDEX Asia conference, which was pretty much for the elderly population. A lot of them cannot swallow pills, so we thought the sprays was a great fit. I sent the artwork, they printed out the poster, they had this beautiful pod, and someone can sit there and sample the products. Those were those samples that almost didn't get there. And then the next one is the New York Times Travel Show was after that, January. Had a couple of people help. I know Daria, who was on the call, came in and helped me. I had a different person each day from my team. And I actually took a picture here, which is interesting because I did end up with a Ukrainian distributor. Unfortunately, now, of course, that's on hold. We just pray for their safety. And they did an amazing job. The distributor that we have created their own packaging, beautiful, beautiful graphics. They're so artistic. And we allowed them to co-brand. You can see they still have our brand. It says Spectraspray on here, but it also has their logo because they have their own brand of vitamins as well. So as far as sharing graphics, this is a good example of success because it still looks like Spectraspray, same fonts, same brand book. We send them our brand book so that they're able to imitate that. And then they sent this to me for approval. So I know I'm in control of my brand around the world. And then just recently, this fall, we were lucky enough and supported by the STEP grant to attend the Natural Product Expo East in Philadelphia. There's also one in Los Angeles West. And I was able to get a few new retail stores, a couple of international connections. This product expo, every food and supplement product imaginable is there. It was probably the biggest event I've ever been to, and it was very exciting. So I've been a guest on quite a few podcasts. I am a mentor at Montclair State University, and some of the advice that I like to give to younger business owners is get some money together and hire an attorney before you start any business, because there's just so much that you don't know. You keep unfolding and you open up something else and there's 10 more things you have to know about that certain piece of knowledge. So my advice is to try to hire an attorney. I'm sure you can find one through the Small Business Administration that isn't thousands and thousands of dollars, but you really need a team. In different ways, not just legally, but I love the saying, teamwork makes the dream work. Of course, if you have any IP, any properties that's yours, we don't have IP, we just have a trademark. We didn't invent this. This is not our invention. We have a brand. So we have a trademark, but it's really important, especially internationally, to understand how you need to protect your brand when you go internationally. It was recommended to me that any country I work in, I need to file a trademark, my trademark in that country so they don't take it. So back to the South Korea story, they The day they spoke to me and reached out to me, the very day they filed for Spectraspray trademark. And I didn't know this until our relationship didn't work out. And guess what they wanted to do with the filing and the couple $1,000s that they paid? They wanted to sell it to me. They wanted me to buy it to protect it. Well, it didn't matter to me because I knew anybody in South Korea could not import my products. So that was a real learning experience. Again, you just don't know what you don't know. If you are hiring an attorney, the question to ask is, how much international law experience they have. You should know that right up front from their CV or from their website, or just asking them, are you an international attorney with a business in my sector? Because every business is different. The other point about a legal jurisdiction is your contract. One of the consultants I worked with had said, if the company that you're working with is not providing you with the contract, they're probably not a good company or a real company you might want to run. Never mind, don't work with them, but they should have a contract to provide to you, which you can review. And then very important is to understand if there were any legal problems, where would the jurisdiction be held? If you're working with Saudi Arabia or Ukraine, is the jurisdiction there? Is it here? Typically, if it's your contract, it's in your state or in your country. But what I didn't realize, like with Ukraine, even though it would be under Ukraine rule, there's an embassy in New Jersey, there's an embassy in New York that we would go to, and we would take care of any legal matters. So that was just something else that I needed to learn. So there it is. If you don't feel that you can get out of your comfort zone, you should never start a business. I had no idea when I started. I started because I thought it was going to help other people live better longer, and I would have a little online business. And then I met Trish, who said, would you like to export? And I looked at her and I thought about it and I said, sure, what do you got? Talk to me, tell me, teach me, help me. And she sure did. And the roller coaster ride has been pretty exciting. So I love roller coasters. It's getting a little harder as I get older, but I like to say sometimes you just have to close your eyes, fasten your seatbelt, and scream all the way, which I did in Orlando at my last trade show. My husband said, why are we going on a roller coaster? I said, well, it just has to keep me out of my comfort zone. I think I'll take a smaller one next time. That was very, very fast. So put your seatbelts on if you're going to start a business. And last but not least, again, I'd like to thank Sobel Company for the work that they do for featuring this today, and the District Export Council, and of course the U.S. Commercial Services and everyone involved. We recently had a very, very nice article written through the New Jersey Business Action Center. There's so many organizations, it's hard to keep them all straight, but they all work in synchrony. It's nice. A little bit about my success story. And if you have any questions in general about anything about the products, about my journey, or you need some inspiration for your business, feel free to email me at support@Spectraspray. So I'd be happy to take questions. It's actually 9:15.
Johnny, we just have a couple questions.
Okay.
If we want to get started with the first one, it reads, I have a question about shipping and international work. I'm the shipping manager at a branding promotional company called You in Kit, and I was wondering, how have you been able to address and filter through international challenges? If you can give detail or an example.
Well, Singapore was not too difficult. I paid for it, and then I was able to get the money back, and there weren't a lot of taxes and all involved. It was a very easy country, free trade country. The only other country I've really shipped to, I shipped samples to a lot of other countries, and they did get there. Some took a little bit longer than others. I think samples was a whole different situation. But Ukraine actually took care of the shipping, and they wanted to do that because they knew how difficult it was. So I don't really have an answer for that because I didn't have to do it. but it did spur me to learn more through Incoterms. And if I do have to do something else, I would definitely use a logistics broker or a company like yours to be able to do it properly. It's very challenging.
Trish, I think Emma has her hand up too.
Sure. Emma, do you want to open up your mic and ask your question?
Sure. I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about your product and the development of it.
Okay. I guess I can, you saw a picture of it, but let me just hold one up. Hold on one second. Here's one of our best sellers, which is a B12 spray. And basically it's only nutrients. There's no binders or fillers. There's no allergens. And the nutrients have been put into a water soluble, it's called an emulsion. So what happens is when you spray it in your mouth, a couple of sprays, it's going in through the buccal cells, which are on the side of your mouth, and even your whole mouth has very soft cells that go right into the bloodstream. I did not, as I mentioned before, I did not invent the product. Buccal absorption has been around for many years. Our chemist and manufacturer has about maybe 15 different formulas that we choose from. I don't have my own formula just yet. I'm considering putting together a mushroom formula for anti-aging. But this is a B12, and we go anywhere from sleep formulas to vitamin formulas. So is there anything else that you wanted to know about it?
Are there, I mean, what are the dangers of like overspraying or getting it in your eyes or things like that?
Oh, that's a really good question. They're metered doses. So when you spray one spray, it comes out, it's done. So it's not like a hairspray, or it's a really good question. I should put that in my FAQs. It doesn't just keep coming out. It's a spray and boom, you're done. You can't, you have to press it a few more times. So it's pretty controlled. Spray it in your eyes. It hasn't happened. I mean, I've been in business for a while. It hasn't happened. But I have to say that when we go to trade shows, people will say, well, where do you spray it? Because they're just not familiar. And one lady kind of closed her eyes and put her face up and said, okay, I'm ready. We were like, what are you doing? She goes, aren't you spraying it on my face? No, we're not.
That's funny.
So getting that information out is really important. We try to say oral spray as much as we can. And we did just create some display units that have oral spray real big on it.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Janet, another question we had come in was, do you use distributors or sales agents? And follow up, how do you handle payment methods and terms?
Payment method and terms with the distributor or the agent? Is that what you're referring to?
I think so.
Okay. I don't have a distributor yet. I just hired an agent a few months ago who's just getting a monthly fee. And after that, he will be taking a 5% fee, which he will bill me for. I did also hire an assistant for my Amazon account, and they are getting a percent as well, which will be paid after we're paid. So after Amazon pays us, I'll get a bill from them because they're tracking the sales as well, and I'll pay them that way.
I have one more question.
Sure.
When you're it's about the product. You were saying early on that it is so much more effective than, taking vitamins. Does your marketing talk about, say we're 5 times more effective of, absorbing vitamin D or zinc or something? Or can you speak to that? Is it in your questions, your frequently asked questions?
Yes, it is in my frequently asked questions. We do have a study on the vitamin D, and it's on the website. Everything is transparent. We don't have a study on every single product because it's extremely expensive. but the oral absorption, there also is a study just on oral absorption. But yes, we do address that. That's really important because people go, how can that be in there? What's in there? It's a tiny
Right.
little thing. I get this giant box of pills, even though most of the bottles that you get are a third full. So you're looking at it thinking it's that big, but it's really just that big. So without the binders and fillers, you don't need a lot of room. It's just the nutrients and combined with water and one natural, it's called sunflower lecithin emulsifier, which keeps all the ingredients separated. And xylitol for sweetener. There's no sugar. Most of them are like a mint taste. Some have a little bit of a fruit, but it's really amazing. I mean, if I had some type of a grant or a backup to really get the message out there, I think they could be amazing in the US, but I'm really not ready to be Balance of Nature or some of those others, trying to keep it more clear.
We got to get you on Shark Tank.
No, because I didn't invent it. There was a company called Mars Sprays many years ago, and they've taken a really strange direction. I don't need to speak to it, but I didn't invent it. It's not my IP, it's my brand. So Spectraspray is my brand. And some of the uniqueness that we have is the lifestyle kits. Being able to incorporate my knowledge and understand what people need, for example, for heart health. We created a heart health kit with D3 with K2. Most people don't even know what K2 is. It helps the D absorb. And it's really important for heart health and bone health, really important. And we combine that with folate plus, which we have B6, B9, B12. And I know about those being needed, but I've also consulted with my nutritionists and my doctors. I have an amazing Ukrainian doctor who I've worked with for years here in Clifton, New Jersey. And he helped create the Immune Essentials kit. He loved the spray vitamins, was selling it to all of his patients, not even for profit, just because they needed to absorb and they were older. And he said, you know, your immune system is so dependent upon stress and sleep and, of course, vitamin D. So he helped me put together, curated an Immune Essentials kit. So I think our kits are really where we stand out, not just the spray delivery.
Excellent.
I don't see any other hands or questions in the chat, but if anyone wants to jump in, if any other, doesn't necessarily have to be a question either, just a topic for discussion or that you want to bring up, feel free.
So Trish, one thing I would love to say, and Janet, first of all, thank you for speaking and for all of the really important hands-on sort of essential information that people need, right? Sometimes everything's at a 30,000-foot level, and having heard your exact circumstances and what you've done and the challenges you faced, I think will help everyone on this call. But early on, one of the slides when you talked about some of the challenges, that bottom bullet said acting or feeling like I'm an owner, like saying, oh my God, I own a business, right? And the statistics I've read and the things I've seen, it's particularly an issue for women, feeling that they're an owner. There's that little bit of imposter syndrome or just a circumstance where you don't expect to actually own the business, right? It feels different. You then went on to talk about the importance of legalities and the importance of business issues. And so I think one of the pieces that gets lost as you're starting a business is that it is a business and there's a protocol. You need a good infrastructure around your finances, your financial reporting, your accounting, in other words, and your legal issues, even before you begin to go internationally. You just need to do everything right nationally. And I think that women need that extra help understanding what it means, what that responsibility looks like to own a business, and almost have that cheat sheet that says these are the things that can go wrong. This is how you might be taken advantage of. So I think on behalf of everyone, I would say thank you so much. You hearing an echo?
Yeah, somebody needs to mute, I think.
Sorry.
It's
But
gone. It's good.
I thought it was so important that you brought that up about feeling like an owner. And then it's also a subsequent slide talking about relationships, because I think everything we do in business, and that's why we created this program, was to build relationships between our participants and to expose them to great opportunities like you've had, and to have a conversation where you've really given them an insider's view of the things that they might never know till they got there. And then it hits
Thank
you in
you.
the face. So thank you so much. And Trish, I think someone has their hand up.
I just wanted to comment on that, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
sure. I'm sorry. I'm not rushing you at all.
No, that's okay. I know we have a few minutes, so I wanted to comment on that because I'm trying to be as honest and transparent as I can. This is still a small business. I'm not even sure if I want it to be a huge business, but I do love the export part because I'm working directly with another country. And then once they have it, it's shipped there and they're dealing with all the marketing. It's a little bit less work, a lot more work up front, but a lot less work afterwards. It's very difficult coming from my background. I didn't grow up very well off to think big. And, it's funny because my husband grew up very similarly, but he has a different attitude. And he keeps saying to me, go all the way. Just if you need to take that loan or you need to get that grant or whatever, just what are you in it for? You can make a couple $100s a week or a couple $100s a month. It's just not worth it. You have an opportunity, go for it. So it's scary. And that's why I put the roller coaster on there, because getting yourself out of your conditioning as a child, not having enough money for groceries or whatever, it's really difficult to think big. I have an extremely successful sister in business who built her own business from practically nothing. And again, we didn't come from much, but because of that, we have to keep pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and listening and creating the relationships that we can trust. Because there's a lot of people out there that just want to sell you something. They want to sell you marketing. They want to sell you social media. They want to have, a fee every month to do this, that, and the next thing with no proven ROI. And it's very hard to decipher who you want to work with and whether it's enough. It has to be a little bit in your comfort zone. I think you have to have a gut feeling that you like this person, like the agent that I hired. He's taught me a lot. I don't have any big clients yet through him, but he's taught me a lot. It was worth it. And I'm hoping that I will get some big accounts through a relationship that was supportive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Rich,
had
do
one
you
of
want
the-
to ask a question?
No, I'd raised my hand.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, Rich Schneidecker. I've had the pleasure of working with Janet. And my background is I've been fortunate to be involved in international business for many years as a sales manager for a company and so forth. What I can just say, to be brief, I guess I found that it's, of course, very important to be able to visit in their country a client to get a better feel for what they're doing. And also it gives them a little bit more incentive. The challenge is to find somebody, if you're working with a distributor, for example, which is most of the cases that I've experienced, is to find someone who's really going to give you enough time, devote enough energy to your product to make it successful. And then, of course, it's a matter of how do you present your product. Just like Janet says, I don't have a patent. I didn't invent this. But how do you present the product to a potential client in such a way as to say that we have these special features that make our product very saleable? And the best way is, if you can convince them that, again, you have a product that has some advantages for their business. If you know their business, I'll go to clients directly, to direct customers in Korea, for example, and I had to say, well, we're not just selling you this, but this product fits into your product range, and therefore is a product you should consider.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you so much for that. We got a 2-for-1 here. We not only had Janet, but we also have that extra knowledge from the international side. And thank you so much for that. It is about 9:29. Janet, did you have something? I didn't mean to cut you off if you had something you wanted to say.
No, I meant to say something similar to what Rich said before, is when you are meeting with these new countries, to really listen and to find out where they wanted to place this. What were their ideas? Just because you have your preconceived conception doesn't mean that some new idea that they have isn't going to work. It's all about what they're putting behind it.
Thank you. It's a perfect perfect ending. And we've got it. You timed it well. We rarely end just right at that 9:30 mark, so I'm thrilled that we have. I
Excellent.
want to thank you. I want to also thank my colleague, Valerie Carroll, again for getting us started and making this happen. Susan Widmer and Tricia for always being the best supporters of this program. We're thrilled to be a part of it. We hope you will come back in August. And in the chat room, Susan has put the information for our June 7th networking event for those who do export, and we'd love to have you join us. So I hope everyone, I know, I don't have to hope is not a strategy. I know that everyone on this call gained tremendous information from you, and we're so glad to have had you with us. Thank you. So good luck to all of you, women in business. Own it.